The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Now, here's Steve Austin.
All right, everybody, welcome to Steve Austin Show. I am coming to you from the Silver State over here in Nevada. Been out here for about 4 days now. I'm finally starting to get dialed in, get my schedule under control, and fall into a rhythm. Man, it's been outstanding weather since we got here. Daytime usually gets up into the 80s, and it's just been absolutely beautiful. I'm going to take the opportunity of today's good weather. I'm going to go out to the shooting range. I think I'll take my 223, a 308, a 22, and maybe my Springfield XD9 45. Got some steel plates to shoot at, and I'm just looking forward to getting out there for a couple hours and just relaxing and getting some trigger time. And then right after that, because there's a riding place next door, I think I'm going to take my Kawasaki Mule Pro FXT and ride around out there in the mountains a little bit, do some trail riding, and just do some exploring and try to continue to find my way around all this land that there is to ride out here. So it's going to be a good day. It's a good day already. Happy to be out here. I'm looking forward to today's podcast. I think you'll enjoy it. Last episode of the podcast, I started talking with Chavo Guerrero Jr. about the wrestling business. We never got into our conversation about Glow. Season 2 is on Netflix, coming up very, very shortly. And we're going to talk about that and everything that was involved in it. And just always enjoy talking about the Glow stuff because I was such a fan back in the day. Watched a couple episodes. Very interesting show, so it's right around the corner. But I think you'll enjoy today's conversation with Chavo Guerrero Jr. And then coming up on the show on Tuesday and Thursday of next week, I've got Enzo Amore, who stopped by 317 Gimmick Street last week before he headed off to do an appearance in New York City. And, man, we shot the breeze for a couple hours about the wrestling business, about WWE, about the music business, rapping, making videos, all kinds of stuff. As you know, Enzo Amore, or Real One, or Eric Arndt, whatever you want to call him, has a gift of gab. The guy can talk a blue streak, and he does on the Steve Austin Show coming up Tuesday and Thursday next week. Always good to see Enzo. Good dude. I think you'll enjoy the conversation. I got some bad news today, man. I heard that Big Van Vader, Leon White, had passed away. And I guess this came off his Twitter account. I guess Jesse had sent out a tweet informing everybody that on the 18th, Big Leon White passed away from complications due to pneumonia. And I guess a couple of years ago, maybe it was 2016, he had announced that he had congestive heart failure and that the doctors didn't expect him to live much longer, maybe 2 more years. And he had just recently had some open heart surgery, according to what I'm gathering on the internet and seeing some of the pictures. But, man, I haven't talked to Leon in a long time, since last time he was on the podcast. Hadn't seen him since the Hall of Fame when he did the induction speech for Stan Lariat Hansen. And, man, I tell you what, I'm going to miss that guy. Leon was a super, super guy, kind of a big baby and a bully at the same time, man. I think he was probably one of the best big men. Definitely, he was one of the best big men in the history of the business. What an athlete, great psychology, could go with the best of them. He was hardcore, laid his shit in. Everything was believable. Just a monster heel run. And his WWF run, wasn't that great, but his WCW run was phenomenal. His work in Japan and, coming up in AWA, former football player. Man, that guy always, I'll never forget that one time we was over in England. It was about 4 or 5 in the morning. All the boys had gone to sleep. I was the last guy drinking in the bar. I told this story before. And I was down there, the only man in the bar, sitting there with a big trash can. The bar had shut down. I had a big trash can full of beer with ice in it. And here comes Leon, Big Van Vader, walking down in nothing but his white underwear. Nothing, not a shirt, no shoes, just white underwear. And he comes up to me, he goes, "Stone Cold." He goes, "What you doing?" I said, "Man, I'm just finishing off all these beers, Leon." And he goes, "Well, mind if I join you?" And I said, "No." So there was me and Leon in the bottom of a hotel at the bar, which is closed down. Everybody else has gone to sleep. And this is after it was right during the Sid Arn encounter with the scissors, and me and Leon are down there drinking beer, and here comes Sid Vicious, and he's bleeding from head to toe. And Leon puts him down on the ground and sticks his finger in his femoral artery and keeps him from bleeding to death. I'll never forget that. One of the craziest things that I've ever seen in my career in professional wrestling. And I'll never forget, when I was trying to come up with do the contract negotiations with WCW, and I was a pretty good mechanic at the time. Hadn't reached, star status, much less superstar status. Having a hard time negotiating a new contract. And I was like, oh, man, F this, F that, F this, F them, F me. And Leon is in the shower, and he comes over to me, and he goes, Steve, he goes, just relax, brother. He goes, always let a cooler head prevail. And I didn't always heed that advice throughout my career, but it was some of the best advice that I'd ever gotten in my career. And Leon and I were very good friends. Obviously, we weren't best friends. We didn't keep up on a day-to-day basis, but just a lot of memories, a lot of battles in the ring. I remember riding down the road with him when Harley Race, the one and only Harley Race, was his manager. And I'd be riding in the back seat. Harley's driving. Leon's riding shotgun. Everybody's drinking beer, all three of us, and the rule was, this is Harley's rule. And when Harley had a rule, you adhered by it because he was the man. When Harley finished a beer, he would crush it and hand it over to Leon, who better have a brand new can of beer for him with the tab popped in the right direction and handed to him ASAP immediately, or there was going to be some consequences to pay. That's just how Harley rolled. And it was a little bit of a rib, but that was Leon's job, was to keep giving the beers to Harley without any delay to slow down the drinking process. I don't recommend anybody drink and drive, but that's what we were doing way back in the day, and I'll never forget just riding down the road with the utmost respect that Leon held Harley Race in such high regard, because Harley gave him some great advice, was a great manager. They had great chemistry together. It was a great act. But anyway, Leon White is gone. Big Van Vader. I'll never forget the first time I saw that gimmick when he was over in Japan. And he came walking to the ring. And that guy was big as a house to begin with. And just the intimidation factor. And then he'd set that thing on the floor on the ground, and he'd start whistling, and he'd point at it, and of course they'd blow the steam or the whatever that was that they blew out of there. It was just it was incredible. And I think, if memory serves me correct, I think they originally wanted to give that gimmick to the Ultimate Warrior, who I think passed it up. But anyway, Leon ended up with it, and that gimmick ended up with the right man at the right time, because I don't think anybody else could have pulled that gimmick off like Leon did, with his work style, with his athleticism. It was a parallel along with the first time I ever saw the Road Warriors. The Road Warriors came out of nowhere with those shoulder pads with the spikes, all the makeup, the spike haircuts or mohawk haircuts, whatever you call them. It was like, holy shit, who are these big badass wrestlers? I got to watch my language here. Same thing with Leon, man. When I saw that gimmick, straight up intimidation, power, respect. He put asses in seats. He drew money. He had some classic battles with Sting, and those are my most memorable. Or for me, that one of his bodies of work was his feud with Sting, because he really lit Sting up, no pun intended. And Sting was really taking some ass whoopings and giving them back. But they had a great combination of chemistry and working together. And Sting had such a high-profile feud with Flair for all those years, and then all of a sudden to do a different kind of a feud with a super heavyweight like Vader, it was just phenomenal. And I'm sure Sting will look back at that was, a lot of good memories, because they had some great matches that I used to love to watch on the house shows. But anyway, I'm sorry to hear about Leon. Was a super guy to me, super important in the history of the business. It's sad that he didn't go into the Hall of Fame before he passed away, because if anyone deserves to go into the Hall of Fame, that guy certainly does. All the championships and all the destruction he caused over in Japan, to bring that over to WCW, and then in WWF, it just didn't work out so much. But I will miss my old buddy Leon. We travel up and down the road together, and it's just a sad time, but his number got called, and And there he is up there in that big 20 by 20 wrestling ring in the sky. We'll catch you later, Leon. I enjoyed knowing you. Hey, man, let's get back into it.
Bet Online. Hey, it's Adam Carolla from the Adam Carolla Show. Football season is in full swing. So is the NBA. They're off to a running start. There's no better place to get in on the action than Bet Online, your number one source for all things sports and casino. Bet Online gives you more ways to play with the latest odds, breaking news, live scores, and in-game betting, so you never miss a moment. From every NFL and college matchup, NBA tip-off, to the excitement of the UFC fights and NHL futures, it's all there. BetOnline keeps you locked in to the action all year long. And when it's time to switch gears, dive into BetOnline Casino, packed with hundreds of the hottest slots, classic table games, live dealers with massive jackpots. Plus, don't forget our VIP program with exclusive level-up bonuses, weekly cash boosts, and rewards designed for serious players. Head to BetOnline today. That's BetOnline. The game starts here.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
Lucha called me. Krista Joseph called me. Ex-writer WWE calls me Lucha Underground and says, hey, what would you think of, we're doing this new product, this new thing. What would you think about coming over? And I said, all right, yeah, I think that's cool. But I started asking more questions, and I realized that this is not a wrestling company. It's a TV show that they're TV guys that don't know wrestling. So my agent talked to them, and we went back and forth a little bit, and Eric and Tony Jensen agreed to bring me on as a producer. Yeah, so we got Mark Burnett's guys. Yeah, so as I come in, and in Hollywood, the way it works in Hollywood, and you know this, but for the fans, sometimes you get a producer credit, and because you introduce somebody to somebody, and you get the producer credit. This one was opposite. I was hands-on everything. I mean, it was costume design, set design, camera work, everything, agenting the matches. I mean, then working. There was times when I was the first season and second season where I'd have headsets on. I'm oiled up doing push-ups, calling the match before. Okay, they're gonna do this. Watch this. Shoot the aisle because they're jumping out of the aisle. Okay, watch this. Hey, all these different things. And all of a sudden, okay, hold on, I'll be back. And then I'll go out there and wrestle, and then I'll run back, and then I'll be back sweating like, oh my God, I'm done. One time I was assisting Prince Puma, and I hurt my hamstring. And they're like, oh, well, Chavo can't work the next show. Like, H is the next show. I was like, hell yeah, I gotta work today. Nobody's gonna call the matches. I'm back there sweating, torn hamstring, sitting there calling the matches. And they're like, are you sure? I was like, absolutely. That's what we do. Like, no one knows the work ethic of us wrestlers. We go. You make the town, period. And that's what we did, So, getting there and just doing all the producer credit, but the producer stuff, and that, thank God. And then that morphed into doing some stunt work, and then that morphed into all my boys at some stunt coordination, but my boys at Stunts Unlimited. You know that stunt group? Stunts Unlimited is one of the biggest stunt groups in all of Hollywood. So I did a show called Grimm, and I came on as a co-star, and the fight coordinator and the stunt coordinator, Matt Taylor and Mike Smith, they looked at me and they go, hey, you know what? They called me and said, we don't know this part of the business. This is a wrestling part. It was a wrestling episode type thing where these, Grimm was just this mythological, like Grimm fairy tales, you know what I mean? So it was like kind of dark, morbid fairy tales. So there's this wrestler that, would kill people and stuff. So they brought me in to coordinate it. So I did that. And when I got done, Mike Smith calls me and he goes, hey man, you ever thought about getting into this full time? I'm like, yeah, I guess. My Uncle Mono left wrestling and became a stunt guy. Got a pension from all that stuff, the SAG, union and stuff. So I was like, yeah, I have. And he says, okay, look, we'd really love you in this stunt organization. Now I got to sponsor you and they got to approve you, but look, you're very specialized. There's not a lot of wrestlers in here. You can do this. All right. So I did it, and that morphed into stunts. I started doing a bunch of different stunts, and then out of the blue, man, I got this call from Glow. So I had heard, somebody told me, hey, have you heard of this gorgeous ladies wrestling show that's coming on? And I'm like, what are you talking about? So I looked it up on, Variety magazine or IMDb, whatever it was. And I go, my Uncle Mono was an original trainer on that show. So I go, let me get it. I want to get, me Visions of Grandeur. I'm going to get in touch with Genji Cohen, the executive producer of this. She's at William & Morris. So I'm calling William Morris. I'm calling CAA. I'm calling all these places. And they're like, they don't want anything to do with me. I couldn't get in touch with them. So I'm out in Lake Powell in my boat, hanging out with my family. And all of a sudden I get a call. And it's the stunt coordinator, Shauna Duggins from Glow. And she goes, "Hi, Chavo. I got your number from Eve Torres. Eve Torres, the WWE diva. I did a show with her, Supergirl, and she was on the show. And I'm doing this new show called Glow. I'm a stunt coordinator on here. And she asked me, because, would you be interested in coming in and interviewing?" I was like, hell yeah. I mean, wow, really? Okay. I was trying to call you guys, basically. I didn't want to say that. Yeah. So then I talked to her, and then I said, hey, she knows the stunt guys that I knew, Matt Taylor, Mike Smith. I go, call them. Make sure I'm not a douchebag. Go call them. So she calls them. She's like, oh, they put me over, Okay, great. So then I got in the room. I had an interview. So I got in the room. There was executive producers, about 15 people in the room. I walk into the room. Now they interviewed 5 or 6 other people already. I walk in. I just need to get in the room with them. I knew I could get this job. So as I walk in, I'm interviewing and talking, and all of a sudden I see this guy standing to the left of me, and he's kind of standing there waiting. And all of a sudden they go, "Hey, somebody wants to say hi." And I look over. There was a play in Hollywood called, and it was kind of everywhere, but it was called The Legend, the Something Chronicles of Chad Deity. Did you hear that?
No.
And it was a play, like off Broadway, that they made about a wrestler that was so good that no one could make him look good. That he was always stuck in the rut of always making everybody else look good, because no one could make him look good because he was better than everybody. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Well, that guy, I went and saw the premiere of that because the guy had got a hold of me and said, "Look, I wrote this with you and your Uncle Eddie in mind." And I was like, oh, wow. Okay, great. I mean, I went to the premiere. Betty White was there, all these people. And I was like, oh, that was great. Well, he's on the writing team at Glow. So he's sitting there waiting for me. So that didn't hurt when all of a sudden he starts saying hi to me and saying, "Hey, wait a minute. Yeah, I know you wrote that play about me." And all of a sudden everybody was like, "What do you mean he wrote a play about you?" And they started asking questions about that, and like, yeah, and I gave him a hug, and they just want to make sure I wasn't this guy that came in and was like, "Yeah, I know it all. Just listen to me. I got this." Hey. And one thing that we talked about before was everybody in Hollywood is this, everybody can do all this stuff, but they can't do shit. Everybody sits there and says, "I can do this and I can do this. I'll put you in a movie." How many interview or meetings have you had about a movie or a series they want to do with you that never panned out? About 500, right? Yeah. All these times. So I told the executive producer, I said, "I get it. This is what Hollywood's about. Everybody's a yes man. I can do this. I can do that. I'm going to tell you, look, if I can't do it, I'm going to tell you I can't do it. But I probably know somebody in this business that can. I know everybody in this business." So they were really impressed with that. Like, all right, cool. And I said, "I'm not going to bullshit you guys. If I can't do it, I'm going to tell you that I can't, but I'm going to figure out a way to do it." I got a job.
Okay, dude, off the record, dude. Yeah. Is Mondo still with us?
Yeah, man. He's still here. He's still in LA, man. Or
someone told me that he died, and I was looking.
Somebody else told me too. Like one of the.
Oh, we're back on the record. Hell with it. Someone told me Mondo died. Well, hell, I died last month, according to Twitter.
Yeah. So one of this I'm on Glow season 2, and Frank Torres, who's another stuntman, comes to me, and he's on somebody else brought him in to do some rigging on the show, and he goes, "Hey man, you're Mondo's nephew, right?" I go, "Yeah, man." He goes, "Man, I'm really sorry, man." I'm like, "What do you mean you're sorry? There's something I didn't know about?" And he goes, he's like, "Well, didn't he pass away?" I said, "No. I mean, did he?" I'm like, "No." Like, "Well, I heard he went to jail and then he killed somebody." I was like, "No, that's somebody
else. I just heard he died. I don't know how I heard
that's that. Somebody else." I go, "No." I go, my father passed away a year ago, but not. But Mondo's still here, man. I gave him a call just to make sure, and he starts laughing. He's like, man, they're always writing me off, but I'm still around here." But no, man, he was the original trainer.
So did you talk with him? Like you said, he was the first.
He was the original trainer for Glow. I remember him doing the original series, the Glow series in 1986. That was the women's wrestling league, basically, the first women's wrestling league. And he was very reserved about it. He wasn't sure if he wanted to do it because women's wrestling at the time in 1984, 85, whatever it was women were brought in and their novelty act. There was maybe one match in the show, whether you're a valet or you're eye candy or something like that. It was a man's business back then. So, there was a show about all women's wrestling and all women that never wrestled before. He had to train all these new girls, these models and actresses and whatever. He wasn't sure. He was like, "Man, are people in the business going to hate me? Are they going to ridicule me?" And for a long time.
Because that's a very interesting time in the business. Like, hey, man, I'm smart enough all these women, and they're not really wrestlers.
Yes,
dude, it grew on to like this cult following and exploded. I was on from day one. Really? I loved it.
Well, you remember the people talking. They didn't get praise. They were almost shunned in the wrestling world for a long time. It's like, you shouldn't be part of this business. Very, very, very protective of this business, and they should be. But you remember that, right?
Yeah.
So. He wasn't sure if he wanted to do it. I remember him talking to my dad about it and talking to my grandfather about it. And they're like, absolutely, you better do it. Because if you don't do it, some other hack's going to train these guys, these girls, and they're not going to be worth a damn. So he came in and he trained. He had him for a year, the first season when he trained him out here in LA. And then someone else came. They, whatever happened, the changes of the guard and bring somebody else in. So, he did that. And I remember that, man. So, when I heard about the show, I was like, I gotta be part of this show. I gotta be. Something told me you gotta do this. So
dude, it's a great opportunity.
I interviewed and I got it, and man, after that, and it was kind of the same thing. I equate Lucha Underground to Glow kind of a lot because we have these executive producers. Genji Cohen, who's responsible for Orange is the New Black and Weeds and Nurse Jackie, these hit shows, and the creators Liz Flahive and Carly Mensch, and they didn't know wrestling, even though they weren't even really fans. They started studying about it. Okay, gotcha, but unless you're in the business, you don't know this business.
Correct.
So, it was kind of the same. They didn't know. So when they brought me in, I would have meetings with the writers, and all of a sudden I'd be reading the scripts and go, "Hey, wait a minute, that's my story." And they're like, "Well, yeah, we just changed it. We worked it around for you." And then I'm getting the scripts. I'm getting the network draft, which is the very first draft. I'm getting that, and I'm highlighting things and saying, "Okay, change that. You can't do this. You got to change this wording, this terminology." And one thing, I pulled the executive producers aside and I said, I'm not trying to overstep my bounds here, but we have a built-in audience with wrestling. The wrestling fans will watch this show, and they'll watch it until you tell them not to watch it. They're very, very loyal. But when you start insulting them or start, demeaning this business, they will turn on you and they'll leave. And this a huge market. I go, WWE, Vince McMahon is not a billionaire on accident. And they're like, okay, cool. Yeah, we totally get it. Okay. They were down with that. So any draft suggestions that I had, they don't have to do anything. It's their draft. It's their writing. They would take my advice and say, okay, we'll change this. Okay, you cannot say this is fake. Now, I'm not saying that it's not a work, but it's fake. Yeah. And so if you see the first season, there's a couple come to Jesus moments that every wrestling fan has. There's a time when Melrose is in the ring and she's like, well, this is fake. It's not real. And then all of a sudden, Junk Chain Sedell, her real name is Sedell Noah, grabs her and chokes her out. I was like, oh yeah, that's lunch. How's that fake? We've all done that, right? Oh, really? We've all, everyone in Russia is like, oh, you want to see fake? I'll show you fake. And everybody backs it. Oh, okay. And then there's another one when Betty Gilpin, who's, she plays, there's like 5 different names I have from them. I have the real name, their work name, and then the wrestling name, all these different, and then some of this next season they change characters. I got like all these different names. But Betty plays, Liberty Bell. So, she's on the show and she's, a soap opera actress, and she's like, I don't like wrestling. I don't get wrestling. And they take her to a wrestling show, and then all of a sudden she looks at it and goes, wait a minute, I get it. It's a soap opera. And this person, oh yeah, I get it. Every wrestling fan has that come to Jesus moment, right? I get it. Oh, that's what it is. So they played with all that in the first season, man. It was so cool to see all that. I loved it. You like it?
Who was the dude's name is on the tip of my tongue. That was the guy that, remember they went and visited his dressing room at the end of the show?
Yeah, Alex Riley.
Yeah, Alex Riley.
Yeah. So now I'm in the casting department too. Now, I'm not necessarily in the casting department, but I'm in the room when they're picking these wrestlers. So I'm seeing their audition tapes. I'm seeing Chris Jericho audition for it, Miz, some other people, and Alex Riley. So now I'm seeing what the casting directors are looking for. So when I'm doing other roles, I'm like, oh, that's what they want. Okay. So I'm like kind of privy to all this little backstage stuff, this insider scoop, insider trading. So, now we're in the room and, Alex Riley comes out and he's in a robe and he's like a bathrobe and he's doing the scene. They're like, oh, he's in character. Oh, wow. They loved it. So then they're asking me, how's this guy? I'm like, well, he's great. We're looking for a John Cena look. And I said, well, almost didn't get pushed because he looks too much like John Cena. And they're like, really? Oh, wow. How was he off camera? I go, he's a great guy. And I'm talking to him and then, putting people over or not putting people over, whatever it is. And so now they're making their choices, so now I'm in the casting department. So then I was the one ordering all the rings. I'm ordering set stuff. The set designers are coming to me and saying, what about this? Where should we rig this? Oh, okay, do this. So now all of a sudden it's like I'm revamping Lucha Underground on Glow. But not only that, I'm teaching them this little part of wrestling and they're teaching me TV. This huge thing TV. I'm not going to Harvard for TV.
What size ring was that y'all using in Glow?
So in Glow, we used the 18-footer. And the reason being, we're going to use a 16 or 18-footer. But I feel sometimes when a cameraman is in the ring, we got a handheld in the ring, an 18-footer is perfect. Sometimes a 20 is too big. It's a good compromise. 16 is just too small to have 2 people or 4 people in there with another camera guy in the ring. You've done promos in the ring and sometimes they're stepping on you. Yeah. So for them, I go for the girls to continually do, because all our Glow girls do all of their own stunts. We have
Straight up?
100%. We have the stunt girls on set that don't work. They sit there.
That's how much pride these girls are taking.
These girls, every single thing these girls are doing. Every single thing. Now, if they're doing a wide shot, like they're very far back, there's no need to throw the girls into that. But that's very few and far between. These girls are upset if we're putting somebody else in their spot. That's how much these girls love wrestling now. And these are just actresses that love this sport now because they're the one putting the time in. I train them just like we do wrestling. Now, I don't beat the crap out of them, but at the same time, they're bumping, they're rolling, they're learning how to protect themselves. But it wasn't a deal where you're
trying to go, okay, we're going to do 300 Hindu squats and we're going to do 300 push-ups or like 500. You remember back in the day?
Yeah, absolutely.
The
power plant, man, remember that?
Yeah.
Hey, did you see the Ric Flair special on ESPN? Did you see that? Yeah. Oh, how good was that, right? People couldn't believe that they were walking up all these, like Vern Gagne had them walking up all these stairs and then they do them with somebody on their shoulders. Then they do them like wheelbarrow style. It's like, yeah, that's
and
what
it was
they
like
did.
10 degrees. But you've heard all the horror stories, because back in the day, because it was a male-dominated industry.
Right.
I would almost say it still is. I mean, the women's movement has been awesome.
Well, it's definitely
awesome.
Sure.
But back in the day,
sure,
because the business was so protected, they would try to run your ass off because if you didn't want it with every fiber in your being, they would weed you out.
You remember
so it's not that process. What, you got a story?
You remember that story with the Tampa Arena, right? When they locked the door, broke Hulk Hogan's leg, right? So you hear that story? They would
Hiro Matsuda.
Yeah, Hiro Matsuda. They'd put you notorious in the FCW, Florida Championship Wrestling. You want to be a wrestler? Oh, you want to be a wrestler? Okay, come on in. And they would lock the door and get you in the ring, and they just beat you up. And there's the stories of the people crawling out of there like, screaming. They drag him back in the ring, So Hulk Hogan, they brought him in that ring. They broke his leg, and he came back. And they're like, oh, you came back. Okay, we'll train you now. I love the story with Dick Slater. You know that story?
No, but I heard Dickie was a super tough guy. And, of course, I knew him from my WCW days. I mean, we weren't tight, but, of course, I knew him, and he was a damn good worker. Tell me.
So Dick Slater. Now, Dick Slater, this is I'll tell you 2 stories of Dick Slater. My dad was telling me this story. Now, he loved Dick, and Dickie were real close, but he was a fighter. Dick would he was a bouncer at one of the bars in Florida, in Tampa area, and all the wrestlers would go in there and go hang out, and when somebody get out of line with the wrestlers, Dickie would jump in, beat the crap out of them, bah, 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 and just light them up. And this went on time and time again. So after a while, the wrestlers going, hey, why don't you come out for wrestling? And he's like, what do I want to do that for? I don't want to do that shit for. And they're like, come on, you got to come out. So they're like, all right. So he comes out to wrestling. They put him in that Tampa arena and they lock the door and they put one person in the ring with him. Dickie wipes him up. All of a sudden, like, whoa. So they put somebody else in the ring with him. Dickie wipes him up. These are pros at the time. Yeah. They put somebody to try to put a shooter in the ring. He wipes him up. Pop, 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 pop. And they're like, holy shit. Like, all right, we'll train you. That's how Dickie got done. But so when I started WCW, they made Eric Bischoff. That was one of the stipulations. When I signed, I moved to Atlanta. And I'm living there, and now I don't got a pot to piss in. And all of a sudden, I'm making $85,000 a year. I'm like, wow, I'm rich. Little do I have to pay for my own, my hotels, my rental car, all that stuff. But man, hey, I'm going out and I'm buying all new furniture. I mean, not all new furniture. I'm buying furniture. I'm buying a shower curtain. I'm buying a coffee pot. I didn't have any of that stuff. So I bought all that stuff. So I went to this furniture store in Atlanta called Haverty's. And I still remember the salesman. His name was Bill Llewellyn. I don't know why I remember it, but I just remember it. And he was sitting there, he's selling me, furniture, and he goes, "Wait a minute, you're a wrestler?" He goes, "Hey, I know a wrestler, and I grew up with this guy named Dick Slater." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know Dick Slater. He's on his last legs with us here, but man, I work with him, and him and Mike Enos were tagging together, so I work with them a little bit." And he's like, "Yeah, man." He's like, he's like crazy, right?" And I said, "What do you mean crazy?" He's like, "He's the toughest guy I've ever seen." So he tells me his story. He was 14 and Dick's 14. They grew up together. They're walking down the street and some 16-year-old drives down, 2 years difference at 14, 16 is a big difference. Yeah. This 16-year-old's driving down the street in a Camaro and all of a sudden flips him off. Well, Dick Slater flips him back off and goes, "Screw you." And all of a sudden the Camaro turns around and rips back around. So this guy, Bill Llewellyn, is all like, what's going on? And all of a sudden Dick looks at this guy. The guy steps out and Dick nails him, knocks him out on the ground, a 16-year-old. Now, this is being told to me by a furniture salesman. And he goes, and not only did he knock him out, he stands over him and whips out his penis and pisses on his face. He goes, "I'm 14 years old, and my friend is pissing on the guy that he just knocked out." Now, a grown man, we'd be like, what is that? This is a 14. He goes, "That's how tough Dick Slater was."
I got to sing the jingle. Haverty's has it. We've got it all. You remember that commercial?
Absolutely, man. What do you think with the Haverty's? I don't know. I've never been to Atlanta before.
So tell me about training these women. So where'd you start from ground one? Because, Chris Adams Wrestling Academy.
Right.
I was training him. Chris was a judo background.
Yeah.
And, he was a very accomplished hand. He could have had a good run. Good-looking guy, good promo, full of fire. He was a little out there. And then also Chico, dude. Chico, I can't remember Chico's last name, was a Spanish guy who was his good friend and his assistant. And he was more lucha based. Okay. But he taught us a lot of this stuff. Right. So anyway, dude, it's taking a flat back bump, it's slapping a mat, judo style, karate style, whatever you want to call it. Basic tumbling drills. Yeah. And then we start off with a little bit of chain wrestling. I sucked. Now I caught on real quick to the tumbling and the flat back stuff. No problem. Sure. And a lot of people, and you know this, and I experienced this in Tough Enough in 2011. You get some people out there, and all of a sudden you teach them how to just take the basic bump from a standing position, just falling back, and they're allergic to that mat.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see it all over them. Miss USA, Rima Fakir, whatever her name was. But it was brutal. She was allergic to the mat. She was a cool chick. Yeah. So how were these women, and how did you say, okay, here's where we go, here's how we start this process?
So I go...
Because these are pure actresses.
These are actresses. Now, I kind of... There's not one template to train people at. Everybody starts at their own level, and you got to tailor your training to every individual wrestler, every individual prospect. So I go, "Hey, girls, come on, get in the ring." "Well, how do we get in the ring?" I say, "Okay, well, so, okay, they say step in. So I show them how to get in. So they start stepping in. Okay. So I stand them around and say, what athletic ability do you have? What sports do you play? "Well, I played t-ball when I was 7 years old." "Well, I did Shakespeare." I'm like, okay, cool. Okay, so I'm working from the ground level, except for Kia Stevens, who was, of course, Awesome Kong, who plays Welfare Queen on the show. One of the best women pro wrestlers in the world. Besides her, everybody else was really, not saying they weren't athletes, they didn't know they were athletes. So they get in the ring and they're going, I've never done this and that. So, okay. So now I start explaining psychology. What do we do things for? Why are we doing things? All these different things. So we start off with, Guerrero style. We do some rolls and we do some slight back bumps, not back bumps, but like just feeling the mat and slapping the mat and walking around. And it's why I walk around the ring first and feel where the mats are. I go, "This is your home, but it's different every time you get in here." I go, even
feeling
if it's,
the boards.
Yeah, feeling the boards, feeling the mats. If it's separated, all this stuff, like, oh, okay. Feel the ropes. This is why we hit the ropes. Now, we didn't hit the ropes for probably about 3 weeks. I really just worked on different things and just working on lockups. And then all of a sudden, I would have to equate it to like dance moves, like almost like, okay, this is how we dance with a partner. Now you step forward, I step forward. Who's leading? Okay, why are we leading? Why are you following? And the same thing in the ring. You can't have two leaders in there. It's a give and take. Oh, okay, I get it. So I'm explaining everything as I'm going. So this, about 2 weeks in, this is literally a good story. About 2 weeks in, we're sitting there and I go, okay, now you go and cover her and we'll go for the pin. So all of a sudden one of the girls is on her stomach and the girl jumps on top of her. And I'm like, what are you doing? Well, we're trying to win. I go, do you girls not know the rules of wrestling? And they go, no. I go, you know how to, I go, hold on, stop. I stop. This is 2 weeks in. Stop the practice. This is how we pin somebody. Well, why are the shoulders down? How come we can't just count? And I was like, okay, now you can also win from a count out outside. Well, why is he outside? How come we just come back in? Okay, a disqualification also. Well, why is there rules here? I mean, they didn't know. I was like, I just assumed you all knew. That's a good story, man. I just had to change it.
But it's funny because the girl was laying in a prone position on her belly, I'm assuming, and the girl just jumped on top of her to cover, right?
They didn't know. Like jump. I go, no, you got to jump on their.
They got to be on their back.
Put their shoulder down.
Yeah.
Put their shoulders down. They're like, oh, well, okay, I get it now.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
So we're talking about glow. We're talking about training the women.
Absolutely. Hey, first of all, Broken Skull IPA. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
Cheers.
So the girls, they actually cover each other wrong. I had to stop practice and start talking to them and saying, these are the rules of wrestling. I just assumed, and we kind of like all laugh about it. Another one of the stories on the set, one of the girls one time, and she starts tearing up a little bit, and just girl thing. It wasn't like it was she got hurt over. She just started tearing up. She goes, I just need a moment. She goes to the bathroom. I go, oh, wow, first cry of the season. And all of a sudden the two stunt girls look at me and go, what are you talking about? That's like the fifth cry. They just hide it from you. I'm like, what? Really? Am I that oblivious? It's like, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, but from our conversations when I had the pause button, you're pretty good at reading people.
I think so, man. You know what? I guess from years of wrestling, you kind of got to do that, and you being in Hollywood, like we were talking about, you got to read people a little bit too, right? Yeah, you can start spotting bullshit a mile away. You really can. I don't know. I think it's just a feel of person, if they're genuine or not. And I can tell when somebody's looking at me when they know what they're talking about, or they're just bullshitting me, because they just start looking away. I mean, unless you're a professional liar, which there are a lot of them out there, and we were talking about that earlier. But you can pick it. You can pick and choose it.
So you train the girls up. Okay, let's talk about putting the matches together. Just the filming process, because that's one of the things. I've done a couple of movies in my days. Yeah. I'm not trying to actively pursue that. But all the stops, starts, the takes. I mean, you've been in the film business for a long time. So you enjoy that part of it? I
do, because wrestling prepared me for that. Because you're on the road for 4 days. I'm like, well, they got me for 4 days, so I don't care if my flight is 10 hours delayed. Well, I'm on the road anyways, whatever. Getting home is a different story. If I'm getting home and my flight's delayed, I'm pissed, bro. I'm like raging. What do you mean? I'm trying to switch it to go through a different state, different airport. You lost my luggage. What are you talking about? But you're there. I'm like, well, you got me. Okay, just patient, whatever. If I'm sitting in traffic, I'm sitting in traffic because I'm here, whatever it is. So it's the same thing. Doing all the takes, I get it. You just you do it over and over until you get it right. And being in like a booking committee, which I remember one time in TNA, we were talking and going back and forth and just trying to get this story right. I had suggested something. They didn't want to do it. It's in TNA. Hulk's in there, Eric Bischoff, Bruce Pritchard, a lot of people were in there. My boys, all my boys. And then all of a sudden, about 30 minutes after the conversation started, we went back to my original suggestion. And Eric Bischoff comes up and goes, hey man, sorry, we should listen to it at the start. And I go, I don't care. I said, we keep talking till we get it right. I don't care if we talk another 8 hours. We're going to keep talking till that angle's done right. And that's just the way it is. And that's the same thing on set. You keep doing it till the director says cut, and okay, that's a take. Next scene. How long were the days? I mean, like, from your responsibilities as far as being there? Because shoot days are long ass days. So what was your schedule? When we'd shoot, training days, typical days. So sometimes we'd have a pre-production meeting. So stunt coordinator, Shauna Duggins, and me, the fight coordinator, would be in the pre-production meeting. This means we're pre-production before the production meeting. Pre-production, then we'd go train the girls 2-3 hour sessions, 4 hour sessions with a little bit of break in between, a little bit of lunch break in between. Then sometimes in between, we'd have to go to a production meeting, with all the producers and talking about the storylines and everybody giving suggestions and that kind of stuff. It's just like a booking committee, basically. They have an outline of the show, everybody starts asking questions of what you want their specific match to be about, what their specific duty to be about. Wardrobes asking questions, stunts asking questions, car details asking questions. Everybody's asking questions and getting exactly what the director wants and getting what the producers want. So then if we go to set, I plan on being on set for 12 hours, no less than 8. And I plan on being for 12. If I get more than 12, then great. We start doing overtime. Okay, great. No problem. OT. It's like actors are like wrestlers. You can never make us happy because wrestlers are like, okay, we're like, oh man, I got to work, but I'm away from my family. Well, I'm home too long. I got to get back on the road, right? And it's the same thing in Hollywood. It's like, okay, man, we had a short day, but I don't get any OT. You know what I mean? So It's like, whatever. So I plan on being there for 12 hours. Your typical shoot day, depending on how many scenes we're involved, how many stunt scenes that we're involved in, is I'd say an average of 8 hours.
How fast do the women catch on?
Women are incredible. These girls, and I can't speak enough about the girls. And I'm not just talking because we're here just talking and doing fluff. I really am. These girls were so good. Everybody was so eager to learn. They loved. I mean, I get calls still. I get texts from like, Chavo, we miss wrestling. We miss wrestling. We miss being empowered. The first time I talked one of them to slam, and this is Melrose, who's Jackie Ton. Smaller girl. She's not one of the bigger girls. We showed her how to pick a girl up and how to base her and the other girl help out. And when she slammed somebody, she stopped and started crying. I probably have a video here. I'll show you. And then she started crying, going, I never thought I could do that. I never thought I could be this empowered. And that's why they love wrestling, because they feel empowered. They feel like, man, we could beat anybody. We can do anything. I said, you guys can. You can. You just need to be taught how to do it. It's awesome to see them just embrace it and kick ass. And those girls, they love wrestling. And before I cut you off on that question, Allison Brie, one of our main actresses or stars of the show, did an interview, and I saw her interview, and they asked her about wrestling. It's like, oh, well, wrestling's fake. And she's like, oh no. Wrestling's not fake. I mean, entertainment, but we're sitting there bumping, we're falling. You come in here, you bump with us, and all of a sudden she started acting like a wrestler. And I was like, all right, this is great.
And defended.
Yeah.
You have any interactions with Mark Maron?
Yeah, for sure.
How is that cat? Longtime stand-up comedian, very successful podcast guy, actor as well, obviously.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I did his podcast. I did his podcast, man, and he's a cool guy, man. He's one of those. He's been around, man. He was telling stories about Sam Kinison and back in the old Comedy Store days. Man, it was really cool. It was just you got a guy that's been around. He's an ex-recovering addict, and we're talking about smoking pot, and he's like, yeah, well, I can't do that anymore, all this different stuff, and it's like, all right, cool. But man, he's just a good old dude, man, and he comes in, he killed his role. He killed his role. You're a fan of his. But I told him, I go, man, I've worked for you before. You're playing an old promoter. He's like, I am? Okay, good. I'm glad you guys like it, He's just a good dude, man. You get what you see is what you get with him. There's no underlying. He's not stabbing you in the back. If he doesn't like your shirt, he's telling you, I don't really like it. It's just what he is. And it's cool. It's cool to see.
Comedians kind of like the boys.
Absolutely. They're working with one time on Raw. I got to a point, I was working with all the celebrity hosts, all the guest hosts, Snoop Dogg and fighting Ricky Hatton and, Cedric the Entertainer, and then one time I worked with Jerry Piven and Ken Jeong. Dr. Ken, from Community and all different things that he's done. So Jerry Piven was like, as soon as he was in the ring with John Cena one time, and John Cena, man, John Cena's like you. He just gets on that mic and just goes. He can just ramble and just take over on the mic. When he got done, and Jeremy was up there in the ring with him too. When he got done, Jeremy comes back and goes, man, that was like, man, being back in stand-up in, 1985, man, that was really cool. I said, yeah, that's what it is, man. Yeah, so anyways. But another thing with them is this, what people don't realize with wrestling, and I tell the girls too, on the show and below, they're like, what we do in wrestling, it's its own form of entertainment. We're like on theater. So a lot of the girls have done Shakespeare and done plays and Broadway and different stuff like that. So I go, just think about that while we play to this big audience. So it's like Shakespeare with Monty Python's Flying Circus combined. I go, that's kind of what wrestling is. That's kind of what we do. I go, but then now you're playing to a camera. So you're in a match. So they got to experience what we experience in a sense, because we have a bunch of extras there. And, sometimes we have, 300 extras, but the extras, we're not telling them to yay or boo. So I go, when you start doing these moves, they're doing, flying head scissors and stuff. I've taught the girls to do all that stuff. I go, there's going to be at least the first time or the second time, you're going to have a legit response from the crowd. They're going to be like, wow, this is really cool. I go, slow down. It's going to get you to speed up and keep going. I go, feed off the energy, but absorb it. Don't necessarily make you speed up in there. So,
well, that's good advice.
When they get done, they're like, oh my God, that was amazing. Like, wow. I mean, I see tears coming down their eyes sometimes, and the makeup people are all like, no, because they're crying. I say, wait. And they're like, oh my God, we did it. How did we do that? And it's like, you did it because you listened, you that was you. And they're like, wow, it's just electric being out in the crowd like that. And I tell him, that's what Eddie used to tell me all the time. He goes, man, there's no drug like being in that ring. And I agree. But he was, he was an addict that was always trying to chase that. He was always trying to chase this, man. I realized finally you can't duplicate it. Being in the ring, that's the pinnacle of all great feelings out there.
So Glow is 2 seasons in.
Second season is getting ready June 29th, everybody.
Are you looking for other opportunities to keep doing this in the Hollywood world, along with your Lucha Underground and your other stuff?
I made it, man. I'm retiring. I'm done next week. Yeah, I'm doing it for other opportunities, man. Awesome, man. You were constantly looking for other things to better yourself. I'm part of the SAG, Screen Actors Guild, with insurance and pension and stuff. And we come from a world that's not. That's not included. So
you know how many years I went without no insurance at all, because I figured, first of all, I'm in my 30s. I'm bulletproof. I'm not going to get hurt, on my own. And if I get hurt, it's going to be in the ring. And if I do, it's going to be workers' comp. So they got it. So forever, I never had no insurance, because you know how expensive insurance is.
Man, I went from a family of 4, $1,200 a month, to SAG insurance, family of 4, $375 a quarter. That's how much it changed. And better insurance. It's the union, man. I have people telling me when I can and can't work, how they can treat me, how they can't treat me, when I can get a meal break. So it's pretty amazing. Something that I've never really experienced before. So, I absolutely, man, just constantly looking for that next, it's just like wrestling. You're chasing it. You're chasing, you got a couple hit shows right now, but if I don't keep hustling, those will end up drying up eventually, and then I'm out of work. So I'll get another one under my belt, and get another one after that. Just keep going, keep chasing.
Hey man, we brought up Eddie a couple times during the podcast. I'll probably make this into 2 parts.
Sure,
dude.
No problem.
You fully gotten over him being gone?
Man,
I thought you guys were brothers, and then I was like doing the research, like. And I'd heard that he was your uncle, but I was like, dude, because Eddie was the baby of the family on that side. And so, but I'd thought for the longest time that you guys were brothers.
We grew up as brothers. Eddie was my uncle. Eddie was my grandfather's late mistake, and I was my father's early mistake. Two unplanned pregnancies. Wow. And it's the truth. We're 3 years apart. He was 18 years younger than my father. So he was the baby of the family, but by a lot. Then I was born 3 years after. So I have an uncle who's 3 years older than me. We grew up as brothers, 100%. We fought like brothers. We loved like brothers. He was my brother that I never had. I have one sister and a biological sister, but no brothers. He was my brother. Being over him, man, that's a tough one. You never get over it, man. Not to get into it too much, but he died in my arms. Really died, so.
I was listening to the podcast, and we wanted to go back down that road because I was listening to your podcast that you did with Chris Jericho. Yeah. And so you recanted that. And if you haven't listened to it, listen to Talk is Jericho, the episodes that Chavo was on there. What I liked about Eddie was everything. But dude, the thing about that guy, it was like he could be, and I've said this about a lot of the boys, but he could be having it's just the worst day in the world or whatever. But all of a sudden, man, they'd hit his music, and that's like when Eddie came to life.
Eddie, we'd always say that he was, Eddie would sit on the back of a turtle and go, wee, because that's how slow he walked, and that's how slow he went. until he went to that camera, to the curtain. Like he'd be like, oh, the weight of the world is on my shoulders. And all of a sudden he'd walk through the curtain and it was like Superman. He would just take off, man. He would just go, So when he did some stuff with you, man, he was pretty stoked. He was like, all right, man. But he was just coming back from being fired. He got fired for being drunk on the job and being an addict. He left, got himself clean, and I guess what they say is that, what Eddie told me was this. He got clean when he didn't have to be clean anymore. He lost his job. He lost his family. He lost everything. There was nothing from stopping him drinking, nothing from stopping him pilling, nothing except for himself. That's when he stopped. And that's when he's like, I can't do this anymore. I stopped. And then when he made it back to WWE, he was on a mission, man. He looked like his action figure. He was like just shredded and just veiny and just crazy. He came in and would just work. So the world champion Eddie wasn't the guy that you knew. He was just ready. He just wanted to get in the ring with you and just go. He was ready to go. After you, he got even better. When he started working with a JBL, and JBL will tell you, he's just leading me through the matches and just, he became the man. When you become the man, that's when you really are the man. It takes a while to get there, but once you become that guy, that's when you're not the man until you are the man.
Did you go on tours in Japan with him?
Yeah, sure.
Because what years? Because my first tour in Japan was a 3-week tour. That was a tour when I jumped off of a top turnbuckle. I went to splash a Japanese guy who moved out of the way. He was supposed to. I landed wrong and I bent my arm too far and just ripped my tricep off. Dean Malenko, Eddie was on.
You hypoextended it.
Yeah, whatever you call it. I tore my tricep.
Yeah. But
Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit.
So you knew
Eddie.
Him before. You knew Eddie before then. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Let's go back to WCW.
Yeah. Before Stone
Ron
Cold.
Simmons was there. Arn Anderson was there.
Yeah.
I mean, and me and Arn were stateside guys. I think Arn had probably been to Japan a couple of times.
Sure.
But we were there with WCW or representing WCW 3 weeks.
That's right,
dude. I tore my tricep on the third night of a 3-week tour.
Oh God! And you stayed there?
Third night of a 2-week tour, whatever it was. Yeah, you had to. I mean, that's just what you did. Like we've been talking about all the time. You finish the show, so I was going to finish the tour. So they put me in a lot of tag matches and 6-man so I could do less action. But nonetheless, I was there. But my point is, dude, when you first go to Japan, and I was in the business probably 5 years. So remember the last podcast we were talking about, hey, when you think you're starting to get good, 5 and then really 10. I wasn't quite there yet, but I was I've already had the television title a couple of times. I think maybe the tag titles. I don't know.
You started to move,
But I wasn't. I was okay in the States.
I saw those old matches. You were talented, man. You're a talented young guy.
But when you get to Japan and all of a sudden you get in front of that crowd and, they're kind of subdued, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there thinking, okay, I'm going to go out there and work with X. And all of a sudden you see Benoit, Malenko, or Eddie go out there. And most time they were working with one or another.
Right.
And it's like when you watch what those guys did and you're sitting there thinking, how in the F am I going to follow this? Because, dude, they would just go out there and just crush it.
Yeah.
And the way you follow it, to answer the question, is go out there and do your own shit because you can't do the stuff that those guys were doing. So you just go do your own shit, but they would blow you out of the water. And it really was a humbling experience. Being in front of a Japanese crowd, you're not used to that psychology or the atmosphere. So it puts you back. And then all of a sudden you see the work that's being done there. And you're a couple of steps down from that, and it's a very humbling experience. But it was amazing to watch,
right?
And I'm glad I was able to experience the feeling and get the lesson.
You know what? On the opposite end of that, what you're saying there, Eddie felt like that next to you in WWE because he was like, he may have been who he was in Japan or WCW or before that or whatever. But now all of a sudden he's working with the man. You were the man in WWE. So now he's working with you. So now he's like, he's feeling like you are. Like, how am I going to keep up with this guy? So I felt that same way. There's a time. So when John Cena first came in, we were training John. We were working with him, tell him what to do, tell him not what to do, whatever. But then when he became the man, I remember at one point they had me doing something and he and I were the main event, but it wasn't a main event. It was like me coming in and for him, being able to beat me up for some, to propel his storyline. We had about, 4 or 5 minutes, but by the time the show came around, by the time we got to the last minute event, we had like 30 seconds, man, like a minute in there, without interest. You just a minute in there. And I'm already accomplished and trained this guy. And all of a sudden now I'm like, okay, well, how am I going to, enhance him? How am I doing this? And I'm almost asking him for advice. Like, what do we do? He's like, oh, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. And so I still kick myself to that day thinking, well, wait a minute. Dude, I was already there. I was already way past that. Why was I like, I guess you didn't want to mess up in a sense, but you're kind of like, oh, okay. But that's what Eddie was feeling, man. He was, in a sense, he was already there. He was ready to go. We would have had a great freaking match with you. And he would have just came in like, all right, let's do this, man. No, but he was like, I remember that. He was like, man, I'm working with Stone Cold. And he wouldn't voice it to me, but he would voice it to me without voicing it. I could see it on his demeanor, on his mind. He was like, okay, this is big.
Yeah, but dude, I requested to work with Eddie because I was burned out and I wasn't feeling what I needed to feel. And I was sitting there watching Eddie's work and I was like, man, I got to work with this guy because that's how much I appreciated what he was doing.
But he was just coming back at that time.
I know.
He was trying to
But then they shut the program down because they had me go somewhere else or something happened. Something blew up. But they shut the program down. But I requested to work with Eddie and it was just, but going back to your that match with Cena, you're going back. I'm thinking to about 2004. Think about it. When was that? 2004, 2005?
That match was probably a little bit later in my career, probably more like 2008, 2009.
Well, but there is a match from 05. Because, dude, but my point is, can you believe time has flown as fast as it has? Because we're sitting there talking about that, and I just finished watching the match on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, we're sitting there, it's 18.
Mine and Eddie's first match in I think it was WWF at the time. Maybe it was WWE. Our first match together as a tag team, and we've already worked in WCW together, and we grew up together and all this stuff. They put us together, me and Eddie against John Cena and Edge. And John Cena was still wearing tights. He still had the short shorts on and wrestling boots. So we said, don't worry about it. We'll just, we'll lead you through it. And we went in there, just kicked ass. And we came back. it was. I don't even think it was on a SmackDown. I think it was like one of the other shows, Velocity, or I don't know, all the different shows that they had, the Saturday Night Show, whatever it was. And all of a sudden, man, we walked through the curtain like, all right, that was good, that was fun. I had Edge, Eric Bischoff, people going, wow, that was crazy. That was like the Andersons working, like the old Andersons going back to, and we're like, all right, cool. And so then the next week we didn't work together. The week after that, I was at the gym getting ready. No one told me, no one sparked me up. I'm working out. Eddie's just coming back too, just after his thing with you. And he goes, hey man, we're in Toronto. He goes, you and me tonight. I was like, oh, cool. All right, man. Wow. He goes, yeah, main event, SmackDown, also against Angle and Benoit. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, all right, let's do this. So we walked in there and we did the match and me and him just went to town. As I come back, Kurt Angle comes next to me and goes, hey, what the hell was that? So what do you mean? He goes, you guys kicked our asses out there. I said, well, you got to do it to us, right? He's like, yeah, but man, you guys were coming. So yeah. And from that day on, we were together and then they started running off. I guess they just, they want to test us, I guess that's what they do. They test us over there. Main event SmackDown, you see if you can hang or you can't hang. I guess we hung, and right there together that took off, and we went from Los Guerreros as heels to all of a sudden, I remember we pulled Vince McMahon aside when Vince used to eat in catering. We pulled him aside and said, Vince, we have this idea. Man, we want to do these vignettes. We're heels. And they hate us. We're lying and cheating, Steve. We never won with. They were like, "Why don't you guys win with a double frog splash?" We're like, "Why are we? No, we were heels. We want to boo us. And we lied. That's where cheat to win came from. We never won without cheating. Never once. So we pulled. We talked to Vince and said, we want to do this. We want to light steal and do these vignettes and stuff. And Vince was like, "I like it. That's cool. Okay, we're going to do that." By the end of the day, Bruce Pritchard's coming up to me. Okay, Eddie, we're flying you out to L.A. on Thursday. We're going to shoot this. He's like, oh, all right, great. We got to set out here. Now I live in, about an hour away. Drove out here in Beverly Hills. They rented a house for us with extras and catering and trailers and stuff. And it was a movie set. And I looked at Eddie and go, man, we got to knock this out. We got to kick ass on this. So then we did it. We did some 3 or 4 different vignettes, the baby bottle vignette, the pool vignette, some other vignettes. And then the next week or week after that, we're heels. We're total heels. And the vignettes, one vignette airs. And when it airs, we're like, all right, that's right. Man, that was good. The next week, nothing else changed besides that vignette aired. Same music, and then we walk out, chests bowed out, lats flared, and we look at each other and they cheered us. We go, oh man, we're baby faces. Man, are you kidding me? And we went to Hunter and said, why are we baby faces? And he goes, you're just too entertaining. So then we started doing Light Sheet Steel, but in a cute way. You know, we started doing like all the stuff with, Eddie stuff. We'd do some stuff where I'd be in the ring and Eddie would leave the tag rope and walk halfway down and go for the tag, and the referee would be like, get back, use the tag rope. So he'd come back, and then we'd do it again. And then all of a sudden, the third time, Eddie would untie the rope and tie it out of the turnbuckle, tie it on the rope, and walk all the way down and go for the tag. And the ref would go, hey, grab the tag rope, and go, he's halfway down the rope. He's like, I got it right here. He says, get back. And he'd get back. I made the tag, hot tag, come in, and boom, boom, we start going to the finish. That's all that changed. Nothing changed except we just started doing these cute and we started these vignettes.
But it's weird as time went on, just the way people were watching the business, because like I always think Superstar Billy Graham could have been the first Stone Cold.
Oh, yeah. Because
he became cool as a heel, but then Bob Backlund beat him, and he
was the first Hulk Hogan. He was the first everything, right? Yeah.
And so then I turned into, I was trying to be the worst piece of shit heel I could be, and I'd get more pops than my babyface opponent, and then Brian Pillman would just come in, and he'd come up to me, he goes, God dang kid, you're effing babyface, and I'd say, F you, I'm a heel, because dude, you take so much pride in trying to be one or the other. And so I was serious about it, but dude, the people turned me. So we did the match at 13 with me and Brett, and so I segued. But it's just weird because going back to, I think my favorite period in the business is mid-'80s and really probably mid-South, and I loved NWA as well, so those would be like a toss-up. Dude, you had shooting heat back in, when the heels could still do stuff. And now, because at that point the business was somewhat still protected. Sure. Very probably. Sure. But these days, it is what it is. You can still get heat, but it ain't the same. Do you remember those old days, or how were the days when growing up watching your whole family get shooting heat, or any vivid memories of those kind of moments? I would see my family. I would see my dad. I would see my uncles, and I always relate that to them because that's who I was around all the time. They would in El Paso and Juarez, Mexico, they would fight their way back to the dressing room and then have to sneak out the dressing room window because they had so much heat. They were fighting with chairs and people wanted to kill them because the fans still believed. It's just changed, right? The business has changed. Now, you say, hey, I'm going to kick your butt. Then a fan will step up to you. Well, I'll sue you. Touch me, I'll sue you. So I actually got to see it when I was in India. I was in India for that Rinka King, and it was me and Harry Smith were tag team partners, and we were their tag champs against Abyss and Scott Steiner. But the Indian people still believed. So Scott Steiner jumped into the fans. We're getting ready to film TV, and he's jumping into the fans, and they look like ants. Whoa, they would spread like ants, and he'd start climbing like the balcony, and they're like screaming and yelling and and it was, they believed. Nobody was standing up to him like, oh yeah, try me. No, not one. They were partying like the Red Sea, and it was like crazy. Scott Steiner's, he's a big guy, but then when he gets pumped up and he's all ready to go, and he's like mouth is frothing, he gets really big, and all of a sudden, like if you're in the locker room, like maybe I'll take him, maybe I'd fight him. In the ring, hell no. Like he gets like what the heck? His veins popping out of his neck. He jumps in the ring, and I look at him. I go. I was like shoot scared. I go, bro, please don't eat me. And he looks at me and winks. And I go, all right, it's on. We're good. And I was like, oh, because I was literally like, what do I do?
Like they just started fighting in the crowd and going, people were and that's how it used to be. The heat was incredible. I saw when people jump in the ring and trying to want to fight you, and the heels. I grew up in that era where you couldn't park in the parking lot because they would slash your tires. They'd wreck your car. You had to park, 5-6 blocks away or get a ride in because you couldn't ride with your opponent. They believed. That's the way it was, man. It was a great time in wrestling.
Hey, man, last question. We're right off in the sunset. What did you think about the magic between Eddie and Art Barr? I just thought they were a super dynamic tag team. And they had shoot heat.
They had shoot heat. Man, you went from a lucha libre style wrestling where it was... Lucha libre is just a different style. It's a lot of high flying. It's no rules and no this. And Eddie and Art came from American, Mexican, Japanese style to trying to make sense of everything and why they were getting heat. Sometimes the heat in Lucha Libre is, I'm beating you up because that's the part of the match we're going to do. There's no real heat there. So people are like you doing their horns like, burr, 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 burr. When I got real heat, there's no sound. People are like, there's that white heat. When they're looking at you, they're like, they want to kill you, but they don't want to say anything because then you might kill them. I want people, when I leave that ring, I want people yelling at me, you beaner, I hate you, that's what I want. You're so lucky, man, that's what I want. I don't want people going, yeah, clapping, well, you did a good move. I hate that. I want people hating me, spitting on me, throwing piss on me. That's what I want. That's what I'm doing my job right. And that's what they had because they were sitting there. You got a Latino, a Guerrero who's big in Mexico saying I'm a gringo locos, and he's dyed his hair blonde, and all of a sudden he's got United States colors on him, and he's swimming across the mat. So when you guys swim across, man, that's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
So, and then all of a sudden they'd go in there and beat people up and then sell when they had to sell. And man, there was heat. That's why the chemistry was so good. And I remember Eddie, because when I first started with Eddie, he's like, hey man, because you remind me of me when I was working with Art. He said, I was always trying to just keep up, man. I was trying to get him and trying to be like him. He goes, just be you, man. Just be you. I remember doing a promo. Me and Eddie did a promo when we first started out, and Rock pulled me aside. Rock was still doing stuff with us, and he goes, hey, man, why are you talking like him? And I said, well, man, I was trying to explain myself. He goes, man, you're you. Be you. Be you. He's him. He's Eddie. Don't be Eddie. Be you. And from that day forward, I dropped the fake accent, and I just started being my accent. You know what I mean? I started being the comical one. Just the way I was. And that was because of Rock. I was like, oh yeah, sometimes you just need somebody to tell you, you don't know sometimes. But that's what the chemistry with him and Art it was pretty amazing.
What happened to Art? Was it OD?
I believe so. I was with Eddie and I heard about that, and man, it just, who knows? Heart stop. Eddie's heart stopped. He had heart disease at 38. And what they attribute it to is years of drug abuse before. He was clean for 4 years, and he did so much heart damage to his heart and scar tissue that he passed. Who knows? You got people that are, drug addicts for 20 years and they're fine.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, let's don't go down that road.
Yeah, sure.
Well, you came here to talk about Glow. Just give the final rundown on where people can catch Glow, and congratulations on being a part of it.
Yeah, man.
Dude,
thank you.
I was on from day one.
Good.
When that show debuted, I was there. It's cool that it's going on now on Netflix.
Okay. Season 2, we're going to blow your socks off. We didn't want to come in as Ferris Bueller's Day Off, number 2. We came in as Terminator 2. We actually came out with a better storyline and more wrestling, and actually, man, we topped season 1. And I truly believe that. It's June 29th on Netflix. It debuts. You can binge watch the heck out of it, and come check it out, man. You're going to be really surprised. You're going to be happy.
Where can people find you on social media, Facebook or whatever?
Find me on Instagram at Chavo Guerrero Jr. You can find me on Twitter at Mex Warrior, and on Facebook I'm at Chavo Guerrero Jr. So it's all kind of linked all together. You follow me on Facebook, you follow me on Instagram, you'll see it all.
Dude, I didn't know you were just right down the road.
That's it, man.
Anytime you want to stop by, give me a yell and come by.
I'm going to come by and give you some of my beer. We're going to go out and do some motorcycle riding, drink some beers, and I'm down with that.
We're going to do a whole nother podcast and down the road
all right.
about riding motorcycles, RVing, boating, and a love of firearms and the safe aspect of
Absolutely.
firearms.
Absolutely.
You down with that?
I'm down with that big time.
Chavo Guerrero Jr., part of the world-famous Guerrero wrestling family, signing off. 317 Gimmick Street. Appreciate it.
Hey everyone, it's Scott Braun and Kelly Nash from MLB Network here with our new show, Baseball and Chill, exclusively on PodcastOne Sportsnet.
Kick back with us each week as we cover all of the action on and off the diamond with player interviews and in-depth storyline analysis of what's happening in Major League Baseball.
Relax with us every Tuesday on Baseball and Chill right here on PodcastOne. Download and subscribe to new episodes exclusively on Apple Podcasts, PodcastOne.com, and the Podcast One app. Also, rate us, leave us feedback. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we would.
All right, everybody, give me the go home cue. Time to wrap up this podcast and ride off into the sunset. And that's what I'm fixing to do. Grab my stuff, head to the firing range, head down and ride some Bureau of Land Management land on my Kawasaki Mule Pro FXT and enjoy the great outdoors offered out here in the great state of Nevada. I want to thank my guest, Chavo Guerrero Jr., for coming down to 317 Gimmick Street, open up a can of audio whoop ass. It's always great talking with Chavo, and I'm looking forward to having him again on the podcast. That's how much I enjoyed that conversation. And don't forget, we've got Enzo Amore, Real One, coming up this Tuesday and Thursday on the Steve Austin Show. I'm heading back to Los Angeles on Monday. Got some good guests lined up, and we're going to keep cracking and moving forward. Before I sign off, ProWrestlingTees.com/Steve Austin has all the shirts from Broken Skull Ranch. And we've got some new stuff coming out ASAP. And I got a badass beer, which is called Broken Skull IPA, made from El Segundo Brewing Company. You can find it at Whole Foods and Total Wines if you live in Cali. If you don't live in Cali, check out InsideTheCellar.com and see if they ship to your state. And if you're looking for a badass pocket knife like I got, check out the Cold Steel Broken Skull knife or the Cold Steel Working Man's knife at my new Amazon store. Amazon has the best price on both knives. Just go to Amazon.com/shop/Steve Austin or go to the Cold Steel Knives website where they have not only the Broken Skull knife, the Working Man knife, but a plethora of knives, some of the best in the business. Folks, until next time, my name is Steve Austin, and I'll catch your ass down the road.
This has been a Podcast One production. Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.
Stream blockbuster hits like 21 Jump Street, Ted, The Expendables, and so much more on Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.